Up tonight is Dr. Niki Panich. She is going to be presenting her company, Calumeo. She's the founder of Calameo. She's also recently was a Stanford Fellow in Masters of Science, the Sloan Fellow. She's a physician, family practice physician, and she has come up with an innovative solution for our COVID epidemic in terms of N95. Dr. Panich.
Can you see my screen? Yes?
Yes.
Great. So I'm Niki Panich, and it is my absolute pleasure to be here presenting to you tonight about Calameo, a point-of-care solution for N95 mask disinfection. And as Paula mentioned, I spent the last year at Stanford, and I met what is now the founding team of Calameo in a biodesign course in early 2020. With this team, we entered and were selected as winners of a Johns Hopkins COVID-specific design challenge in March, and so began our Calameo journey. To give a bit of background, N95 respirators are specialized single-use face masks that form a complete seal to users' faces and have the ability to filter out airborne viruses. I'm sure in the current pandemic, everyone knows what N95s are. But during this pandemic, supply of new masks continues to be significantly less than demand, and thus a new industry has spurred in disinfection of used N95s. Currently in California, all inpatient hospitals and skilled nursing facilities are sponsored by the state to implement mass-scale decontamination of used N95s through a company called Battelle, which was the very first one to receive Emergency Use Authorization, or EUA, for the purpose of N95 reuse. There have been other mass-scale disinfection approvals since that time. I'll explain to you how Battelle's process worked. So used N95s from a particular site are marked and shipped to a centralized processing center where they're treated with vaporous hydrogen peroxide gas. Treated N95s are then shipped back to the original site for reuse. So this process obviously involves bulk disinfection and can leave a significant residual odor. The off-site processing model is similar amongst other companies and other technologies such as dry heat. While Battelle is suitable for large mask volumes, it's not suitable for smaller clinical settings. Doctors, dentists, therapist offices are open and seeing patients in the community at full capacity. These medical workers and office staff are at especially high risk for COVID exposure, but mass decontamination is not practical. It's not economically viable. The number of used N95s generated by an individual clinic just does not support the infrastructure necessary for bulk disinfection. So individual providers are turning to crowdsourcing in many cases to complete the necessary shipment size for N95 to try and secure deals. So we know that hospitals in states with government subsidies and large hospitals where bulk decontamination is economically feasible are using offsite decontamination. But what about smaller hospitals? This is a gap in the market. What about outpatient facilities, medical field use in the military, and all non-medical face-to-face services such as barbershops, nail salons? This also represents a large gap. Healthcare workers have identified many issues with the current solutions.
Are they on a workout?
As
I'm giving Liam.
Current solutions involve bulk disinfection. That means that infrastructure must be developed to collect and redistribute masks, and that treated masks are not always distributed back to the original owner. Proper mask function is dependent on fit, and healthcare workers who do not receive their personal mask back have been raising concerns about the fit of their returned masks. In addition, vaporous hydrogen peroxide leaves a residual odor that many healthcare workers find nauseating or irritating to their skin. Some healthcare workers are refusing to use chemically treated masks outright. I want to take a moment to reflect on the tragic lives lost due to COVID. Adeline Fagan is among the healthcare workers who lost her life to COVID. And unfortunately, in her case, a lack of personal protective equipment was thought to be a factor. I think her story resonated with me because she's an OBGYN resident and I deliver babies as a significant part of my practice. Stories like Adeline's are too common. And that's why our team decided to develop a solution for healthcare workers to decontaminate their own masks at the point of care. Our solution had to have 3 elements. It had to have the ability to inactivate the SARS-CoV-2 virus. had to preserve the N95 function and also to have countertop implementation. With these factors in mind, I am excited to introduce you to Calameo, a solution for small-scale N95 disinfection that's used at the point of care. Our solution employs dry heat without any chemical reagents, so it's safe to be end-user operated. Conditions for dry heat and activation of coronavirus that preserve the fit and function are very well established at this point. Dry heat is being used by large-scale decontamination services that have been approved by the FDA, and also in many unregulated do-it-yourself fashion by healthcare workers individually. From our discussions with our FDA reviewer, we believe we are the very first to submit an application to be an end-user point-of-care device. We've been working with an experienced regulatory consultant and have a favorable FDA reviewer. We've just completed our safety testing and submitted our project to the FDA for final EUA review. We've worked with Nelson Labs to implement WHO protocols for microbial load reduction and to confirm fit and function testing. We expect an imminent FDA decision. Our user process is very simple. At the end of a clinic day or a shift, 6 masks are placed into the device for disinfection. The cycle lasts about 75 minutes with ramp up and cool down times. And at the beginning of the next clinic or shift, the decontaminated masks are taken out, either redistributed back to the user for use that day or placed into storage. No shipping or hazardous waste is required in our process. And an individual mask can be used up to 5 times with this technology. And there's some suggestion that it could be up to 20. I want to highlight a key partner in our strategy. We have a unique partnership with Phoenix Ventures, which is a full-service development and medical device manufacturing firm in the Bay Area. Without their support, there is no way that we could have developed a device in the quick fashion that we have. This is a demonstration of some of the rigorous safety testing that our device has undergone. Some of it looks actually space age, the rooms that it was put in. Calameo's value to healthcare workers is clear. It increases their access to clean N95s, but there's also significant benefits for the buyers. By protecting workers, continuous patient care is safeguarded, and we all know about the elective surgeries that were canceled and the potential harm that that caused to patients. In other cases, employers are facing backlash for not adequately providing N95s for their workforce, so this could help improve relations. It also decreases the amount of hazardous waste generated, and waste disposal is expensive. And it finally provides assurances for future shortages. In the past, N95s were stockpiled, taking up large amounts of space and generating waste from many expired masks. With Calameo, mask reuse would mean that fewer masks need to be stored and wasted. One of the consequences of increased mask use has been increased mask waste, and pictures like this are showing up all over. Our long-term vision for Calameo is a company that addresses the broader issue of PPE use, reuse, and waste. COVID has transitioned us into a new era of increased PPE use and increased PPE waste. The science suggests that COVID, like influenza, could have an annual surge and require annual vaccinations, just like the flu. And in fact, the FDA has recognized this in May with 2 brand new product codes for decontamination systems for what used to be single-use PPE. Calameo falls under the QLA code, and in actuality, the FDA has indicated that a single mask can be decontaminated 5 times, potentially up to 20. Future studies are ongoing. We also see an opportunity in the non-medical space, in retail clothing, and also in the food sector. While N95s are typically cheap and highly usable, this is currently not the case. Thus, users are using mass decontamination strategies, which are expensive and not feasible in smaller settings. Calameo has a lower face value and is designed to be more user-friendly. Processing costs for N95s with Calameo are cheaper than with other alternatives. There is also a significant TAM and SAM for our market. And it does include healthcare as well as non-healthcare options, such as barbershops and salons. There's 2 sources of revenue for Calameo, the device itself, as well as a disposable indicator strip that ensures users that their mask was properly disinfected. Longer term, we would do a raise and iterate on our model. We have a broad outreach strategy and would like to get Calameo into healthcare facilities all across the United States as soon as possible. We are looking for physicians and other healthcare workers who would like to use our product in their individual offices, on their wards, or to take to their hospital CEOs to lobby for use in their building. If you are interested in this device for yourself or for your facility, please reach out. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak to you about Calameo.
Terrific. Well, that was wonderful, Niki. I really enjoyed that. I see some questions coming up in the chat box. I just wanted to start with, is your technology proprietary? I might have missed that, and and how much does the device actually cost?
Yeah, so our technology is, we did file IP on certain elements of our technology. Obviously, heat in and of itself is not proprietary, but use in the medical space is new. Pricing will depend on the volume that's purchased. We obviously are willing to do bulk deals for larger purchases.
Very good. I think another question is, how available are the plastic bags? Are those just regular type of plastic bags, or are they specially designed for the decontamination?
No, we tested with regular Tyvek bags, knowing that that would be readily available in hospitals. Yeah.
Oh, that's very good. Anybody on the panel have any questions? Yuli, or any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Thank you very much. It's a very interesting device and certainly has great application. My question is, you had mentioned in your presentation that there's a 5 to 20 time mask use.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering how you proved that, or how you came to that conclusion. And 5 to 20, the difference between 5 and 20 is quite a bit. So
yeah, so we worked with Nelson Labs and used the same protocols that the WHO used to do their mass disinfection studies. And so the science is very solid around 5. And there's ongoing studies to do 10, 15, 20, 30 to see. And so we think that 20 actually will be possible. And that actually was submitted and then retracted by another group from the FDA because they just wanted a little more science around it.
Thank you.
Okay, terrific. Well, thank you very much, Niki. I think if there's no other questions, we will move on to our second presenter tonight.
I've got a couple of questions from the chat.
Oh, okay.
I think one of the questions was, when eventually COVID-19 cases have declined, what will be the plan for continued use? And then how soon do you think the FDA will approve this?
Yeah, so we expect FDA approval within the next few weeks, fingers crossed, maybe even within the next week. So that's for EUA, not 510K, but EUA, which is really exciting. And then beyond COVID, we see ourselves in the waste reduction, PPE reuse for waste reduction space. I know that around the world, this is an interest because of the amount of waste that's been generated.
And Niki, Dr. Perengi asked a question about are you sending some out for testing in healthcare institutions right now?
Yes, and we are looking for other healthcare institutions that might like one. Absolutely.
Please. Could I ask one other question?
Of course.
Can you say something, I might have missed this, but can you say something more about production? You had mentioned about costs being sort of relative to purchasing, but tell us about production.
Yeah, so one of the barriers to entry, I think, for other companies, because that's actually a question that we typically get, is that every component of our device is what's called UL certified, meaning that it meets the US standards. And so, it is more expensive to produce that way than to produce potentially overseas, but you're also getting a quality that is meeting US standards.
I don't think we will have time for more questions from Niki, but they are coming into the chat box. So if you want to reply to them individually, sure. And you can also see the great comments, positive comments that you're receiving. So
yeah, that was terrific and very timely.